The Royal Rumble is the second biggest event of 2021, and it's going to be even bigger. During our Wrestling Insider pay-per-view watch-along is the former Raw main eventer himself. John Cena Sr. will be in studio live during the big event. We'll watch the Royal Rumble, take some questions, sign some autographs, and make this year's Royal Rumble as interactive as it can be without you being there in person. Get ready for John Cena Sr. live during the Royal Rumble, January 31st. Boston Wrestling Sports and the MWF explodes into a new year of unknown with professional wrestling content galore, and we need you to join our family. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. after we review the previous night's Monday Night Raw, it's Wrestling Insiders at your house with the unpredictable WWE Hall of Famer, Mr. USA, Tony Atlas. Wednesday nights after WWE, NXT, and AEW at 10 p.m., you never know who's going to show up on Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. after our NXT and Dynamite review, it's Marty Jannetty's No Holds Barred Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll journey through the 80s and 90s on Wrestling Insiders Party with Marty. Friday nights after the lights go down at the Thunderdome on SmackDown, it's John Cena Sr.'s Wrestling Insiders Fabulous Fridays. Plus, look for classic clips, bonus live episodes, pay-per-view watch-alongs, and more. If you want early, ad-free access to all of our Wrestling Insider talk shows, our acclaimed studio shoot interview DVD library, and to help keep wrestling legends working during the worst of times, for less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, join our growing family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. Expect the unexpected in 2021.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Harley Race.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
And this is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there live.
Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, welcome to a special installment of Wrestling Insider's Current Events, where we break down the January 25th, 2021 edition of Monday Night Raw under the Thunderdome at Tropicana Field in Tampa, Florida, home of the Rays. My partner in crime for these reviews, Matt Degnan, continues to have internet issues along the longest shoreline in Connecticut, so he was unable to catch Raw last night on the old DVR, so that left me by my lonesome. I considered skipping an episode, but figured, you know what? It's all about work ethic, baby. So I figured we'd try and pump out one of these bad boys on my own. I have to see how you guys like it. Do you like a one-man show? Do you like to have angry old Socko here? When he gets going, you know, he almost takes it personal. It's almost like a personal insult when he watches Raw and some of these other shows. Hopefully he'll be back with us on Thursday night for the AEW and WWE NXT review show. I am taping this a little early as we prepare for Tony Atlas in a little bit at 10 o'clock, top of the hour. The sun is setting here in Melrose, Massachusetts. Downtown, the zip code of Champion 02176. We have a little FFM in the background. We're not talking about AM radio, FM radio. We're talking about what we call FFM here at the studio, which is a little French fuck music. One of the producers here is a Frenchman that enjoys this fuck-like music that he leaves going for several hours at a time. So I have that in the background to soothe me as we talk about the king of sports, professional wrestling. Don't forget that we'll be hosting a live Royal Rumble pay-per-view watch party with special guest Mr. John Cena Sr. himself this Sunday night at 7 p.m. Should be a good time. Tune in to the Rumble on WWE Network, then cyber watch the pay-per-view party with your friends here in Boston earlier that afternoon. We're also going to have a pay-per-view weekend special edition of Wrestling Insiders as TJP is back for a follow-up to his studio shoot interview last month before the TLC pay-per-view, which I thought was an exceptional conversation with one hell of an athlete. I hope we can have back here in the Boston Wrestling MWF once we have live wrestling in-ring events again. As I noted at the top of the hour, 10 p.m., I'll be joined by WWE Hall of Famer, Mr. USA Tony Atlas, as we discuss the passings of Brody Lee and the legendary Danny Hodge, along with what wrestler he feels was tougher than Haku of all people. Tomorrow night at 10 p.m., it's Wrestling Insider Special Edition, where I'll be joined by one of Matt Degnan's personal favorites, Brian Knobbs of the Nasty Boys. Knobbs talks about jumping ship from the NWA to the WWF in the middle of a feud with the Steiner brothers, entering WWF within weeks of The Undertaker's debut, his early days in WWF in 1990 into early 1991, a look at the Royal Rumble, and much more. I'm a big fan of this Wednesday night Wrestling Insider Special Edition program. I like the rotating guests. I think it keeps that night's episode fresh, but I have to be honest in that we need the fan support to keep it going. Past the episodes we already have taped. We have some new superstars that want to come in. We have legends that want to return to the studio. Let me tell you, folks, I'll work as hard as humanly possible to make it happen, but you are our tag team partner in making it happen. I'm on consecutive day. I don't know what it is right now, 37, 38 here at the studio. You guys that listen every day might be able to keep track of it better than me. There are lots of ways you can help, many of them free. First off, share the video across social media. It's that easy. On Facebook, there's a share button right under where you see these videos. Share it in wrestling Facebook groups you're in. Let's get some new eyeballs on what we're doing. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a share button that sends the link to a variety of platforms at the same time. We're thrilled with the great growth compared to last year at this time, but I'm not too humble to say that I realize that there are millions and millions of current and lapsed wrestling fans that have no idea we exist and would likely love our weekly Wrestling Insiders in-studio shoot interviews once they get a chance to see them. Fans, you guys can help get the word out. Our Patreon family continues to grow, where you get that early, ad-free access to all of our weekly Wrestling Insider in-studio shoot interview talk shows. Our world-renowned studio shoot interview DVD library that has been seen by millions online and millions more on The Howard Stern Show. You get that exclusive content, plus help keep wrestling legends working during the worst of times at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling, all for less than a cup of coffee over at Starbucks. You're absolutely going to love it. Give it a shot. Rules and regulations are different in every state during coronavirus, but let me tell you, our eBay store is open 24/7 around the world with awesome rare wrestling merchandise for your wrestling man cave. Again, with each purchase, you get an on-air shout-out from Tony Atlas, and you help keep wrestling greats working. The link to our eBay store can be found in the description box below. Last night it was the go-home show on Raw to the Royal Rumble. I enjoyed being in Phoenix, Arizona, and Houston, Texas for the Rumble the past 2 years. I'm disappointed things are the way they are right now. In the opening segment, WWE Champion Drew McIntyre returned from coronavirus quarantine and was happy to be there until Miz and John Morrison showed up as two 40-year-old men doing sophomore high school comedy that wasn't all that funny. Perhaps there was a better way to execute the material. The Hall of Famer Goldberg showed up. He went face-to-face with McIntyre before the two of them kicked Miz and Morrison's ass. It's going to be interesting to see McIntyre and Goldberg collide at the Rumble on Sunday. Will McIntyre be able to get more than just a couple of minutes out of Goldberg, which has been typical of Goldberg matches since he returned back in 2016. I thought it was an effective segment, teasing that McIntyre and Goldberg were going to wear each other out so much on Sunday that Miz would have a logical way to cash in that Money in the Bank briefcase. With so much time and so many pay-per-views between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, literally anything can happen. But as I've noted before, I thought it was a disaster having McIntyre lose the title to Randy Orton, never mind a mid-card Miz. I don't think Drew McIntyre should have been pinned on a WWE television show, pay-per-view, etc., until the fans were allowed back into the venues on a regular basis, so WWE could gauge just how over or unover McIntyre is as a top guy, where they can go with him long term. Again, that's just one man's opinion. From there, the announcers advertised several women's matches that most fans had little interest in seeing. After the commercial break, Charlotte and Shayna Baszler was ruled a no contest when Nia Jax interfered. I don't know why that wasn't ruled a disqualification. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke ran out to try and even the odds in the feud that will never end between Jax, Baszler, Rose, and Brooke, that I don't think many fans have all that much interested in, followed by Lacey Evans. They went to a commercial break, and you just knew Raw was going to come back with the 6 women's tag team match already in progress again that few were all that interested in seeing. Rose and Brooks add nothing to the quality of the show other than their physical appearances. They're lovely ladies. The quality of their actual professional wrestling is not good. In the show we had on Fabulous Fridays with John Cena Sr. last week, we caught a little bit of flack with our thought about Sasha Banks being named Wrestler of the Year. It's one thing to give 110% effort. You can't deny that. You can't work any harder than you can work. But, in my opinion, and many fans' opinions, including the hundreds of thousands that vanish year in and year out, there are women like Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke that don't add anything to the presentation of the program. I was disappointed that Ric Flair wasn't out with the lady Lacey Evans. I think that's been one of the best programs that's been going on Raw right now. Baszler, Jax, and Evans got the win when Jax took out Dana Brooke for the W for what feels like the 80th time that foursome has had some form of a match, whether it be singles, tag, or 6-woman tag in 2021, and we're not even out of January yet. Mustafa Ali's promo on Kofi Kingston using actual WWE history from 2 years ago was very good and should build to what I would call a must-see solid pay-per-view match between Ali and Kofi on the road to WrestleMania. For the 3rd week in a row, the now singles member of New Day, Xavier Woods, battled a member of Retribution. This week it was Slapjack, and Woods actually got the win. It makes zero sense to me that WWE officials would allow 4 people to be in Slapjack's corner for a match, a one-on-one match, but why would common sense be needed in a day and age when WWE is such a hot product with record-breaking ratings, right? Wink, wink. The Hurt Business's VIP Lounge promo started out very good before R-Truth came out for his nonsense, followed by the undercard talent chasing his worthless 24/7 quote-unquote title. As I've noted before, if this was a show aimed at little children, I think R-Truth would be very amusing and have great value. Unfortunately, Monday Night Raw isn't being produced for elementary school students, so I'm not a big fan of it, as you can probably tell. Sheamus with the win over John Morrison in a match that just kind of felt like it was there. Wasn't bad, wasn't great. I continue to feel like Sheamus is better off as a heel. Morrison is better off as a babyface with the style that he works. I sense a Sheamus heel turn in the works for the 43rd time during his WWE career, and I could see him easily facing Drew McIntyre on one of WWE's B pay-per-views headed into WrestleMania. After the matchup, The Miz said that Sheamus had to be prepared for anything in the Royal Rumble, leading to a handicap match where Miz and Morrison beat Sheamus, with Miz scoring the pinfall with the skull-crushing finale to keep Miz hot, where he still has the briefcase. Back in the locker room, Ric Flair was teaching Lacey Evans some holds. What kind of holds? I don't know. They weren't too far from Orlando with Space Mountain at Disney World. Charlotte showed up, stormed into the room, confronted and disrespected her father. Not sure if the goal here is to turn Charlotte heel, but Lacey's already the heel. After demeaning the Nature Boy, the lady came back in, used the ladies right from behind to knock Charlotte out, in what I thought was a very good segment. I imagine that this should be a match you'll see at Elimination Chamber after the Royal Rumble. I can't see WWE having the pacing or the patience to stretch this out until WrestleMania, unless maybe the Raw Women's title comes into play. AJ Styles defeated R-Truth in what thankfully was a very quick match. Guessing the 24/7 title wasn't on the line here, nor was Truth attacked by the Enhancement Talent Posse after the matchup. Good win for AJ, headed into the Rumble. Riddle, no longer Matt Riddle, Riddle defeated Shelton Benjamin, MVP, and Cedric Alexander in a gauntlet match to earn a United States Championship match against Bobby Lashley. Lashley just tapped Riddle out recently on Raw. Cedric Alexander continues to be divisive in the Hurt Business faction, which makes, again, little sense to me where they just formed this faction. WWE should be focused on making them as strong of a unit is possible, giving them baby faces to get some heat on. All kinds of fighting within the Hurt Business faction. After the match, Lashley laid out Riddle. Not a bad match by any stretch of the imagination, but I just don't understand the logic of the presentation. Edge, Adam Copeland cut a Major League Professional Wrestling promo from some dark wrestling ring, announcing his intentions to return at the Royal Rumble this Sunday. I would have rather it been a surprise, as it's not like announcing Edge's return beforehand is going to lead to pay-per-view buys with the advent of WWE Network. Nonetheless, unlike most of the scripted, rehearsed garbage promos we see on Raw, this was excellent. This felt like Edge, a real human being talking to you from his heart and from his soul. I look forward to Edge's return. He said to work awfully hard for what will now be his second return over the course of a year to make it happen. In the main event segment, we had yet another poor match with a poor finish as WWE Raw Women's Champion Asuka battled Alexa Bliss to a no contest. Alexa kept changing personas and personalities throughout the match for the, I guess, cinematic presentation. I have no interest in watching Alexa possessed, talking and acting like a 6-year-old girl in a swing set or talking to invisible people. It looked like Asuka was going to use that Jack Murray-like mandible claw to get the W and win the championship, but Kentucky Fried Randy Orton showed up and hit the RKO for rare man-on-woman violence to conclude Raw. I'm not a big fan of the man-on-woman violence, but you know what? It was 11 o'clock. Why not? Alexa did hit the man's face with fire, so if he isn't entitled to an RKO, who is? No decision to the main event, which I didn't like. They should have announced that. But that, again, is one man's opinion. On the flip side, I'm glad that WWE decided to hold off on Randy Orton in The Fiend at the Royal Rumble. They don't need the rematch at the Rumble. The Rumble is strong enough itself without this grudge match. With both Elimination and Fastlane before WrestleMania, they're going to need as many strong matches as possible. And again, the Rumble, I don't think, would be helped by having that match there. Who knows what WWE is going to be able to put together on the pay-per-views in February and March that fans aren't exactly knocking down the door to see as we get ready for another 2-night WrestleMania, Saturday, April the 10th, Sunday, April the 11th, at the beautiful Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. So I ask you fine folks, if you're watching during the premiere on Tuesday night at 9, give me a number between 1 and 10. 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. What did you think of Monday Night Raw last night? If you're watching after the fact, leave your rating in the comment section below. We love to know what you guys are thinking. Overall, I gave Raw a 5 out of 10, which is actually one of the better Raw ratings I've given of late. It held my interest. There weren't too many times during the show I wanted to change the channel. At the same time, there was really nothing exceptionally good about it, so I went with the halfway split, 5 out of 10. Don't forget, folks, again, it's a huge week of programming here for us on Boston Wrestling at 10 p.m. tonight, the top of the hour. I'll be joined by WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas for what always turns into a fun program. Tomorrow night at 10 p.m., again, Nasty Boys Brian Knobbs returns, talking NWA and WWF 1990 into 1991. Thursday night at 10 p.m., put the women and children to bed, literally, for this movie-length edition of Wrestling Insider's Party with Marty. Marty is literally and physically all over the place, from J.J. Dillon jumping ship as an on-air manager in the NWA to working for The Office in WWF, injuries suffered in WWF, and then again by a coked-out WCW star, Ted Turner's then-wife Jane Fonda getting physical with certain members of WCW. Marty talks about a Haku bar fight in WWF, an enhancement talent taking issue with the Barbarian of all people, a physical altercation that Marty had with a promoter in Austria that led to the police helping Marty flee the country, and much more. This one, you gotta see to believe. Then we round out the week after SmackDown Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern as John Cena Sr. is back for Wrestling Insider's Fabulous Fridays. We have predictions on the Royal Rumble, as well as thoughts on Goldberg. Thank you for joining us, fans, on this one-man edition, this one-man review of Raw from last night. We look forward to having Matt back with us, again, hopefully for the AEW and NXT review show. And we look forward even more so for you joining us at 10 p.m. tonight for Wrestling Insiders at Your House with Tony Atlas. Tell a friend, tell a few thousand, as we get more and more fans involved in Boston wrestling sports and help keep these wrestling legends working. Good night. We'll see you at 10 o'clock. The World Wrestling Federation was live at the Los Angeles Sports Arena in Los Angeles, California, Friday, January the 26th, 1990. In the opening contest, Earthquake beat the Red Rooster. Coco Beware with the win over Black Bart. Superfly Jimmy Snuka defeated Greg the Hammer Valentine. WWF Intercontinental Champion The Ultimate Warrior retained the title over Dino Bravo. Rugged Ronnie Garvin victorious over the Brooklyn Brawler. WWF Tag Team Champions The Colossal Connection retained the titles over Demolition via countout. And in the main event, Roddy Piper defeated Ravishing Rick Rude inside a steel cage. If you were in Los Angeles live, share your memories in the comment section below. Use the links in the description box to keep wrestling legends working on our eBay store and on our acclaimed Patreon streaming service so we can bring you more interactive shoot interviews to relive the good old days of professional wrestling. Check it out. Boston wrestling sports in the MWF explodes into a new year with professional wrestling content galore and need you to join our family. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. after our Monday Night Raw review, it's Wrestling Insiders at Your House with WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas. Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. after NXT and AEW, join rotating legends on Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. after our NXT and Dynamite review, it's Marty Jannetty's No Holds Barred Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll journey on Wrestling Insiders Party with Marty. Friday night after SmackDown, don't miss John Cena Sr.'s Wrestling Insiders Fabulous Fridays. Plus, look for classic clips, history videos, bonus live episodes, pay-per-view watch-alongs, and more. For less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, get early ad-free access to our Wrestling Insider talk shows, our acclaimed studio shoot interview DVD library, and help keep wrestling legends working during the worst of times. Join our growing family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. Expect the unexpected in 2021.